In this video, I wanted to see if I could beat a hardcore Nuzlocke of Radical Red. That's right, for this challenge run, we're tackling one of the hardest Pokemon ROM hacks ever created. Radical Red takes the base game of Fire Red, reworks enemy teams, adds Dynamax and Megas, and also adds every single Pokemon from Gens 1 to 9. Combine this with my hardcore Nuzlocke rules then, and this run is gonna be a nightmare. I'm nothing if not a masochist though, so as well as my normal hardcore Nuzlocke rules that you can see now on screen, I also won't be using setup moves, and I won't be allowing myself the use of damage calculators. With the rules set up then, let's jump in and see if we've got what it takes to beat this challenge. So we start off in Pallet Town, full of enthusiasm and excitement to get this run underway, and that means it's time to pick our starter. Now Radical Red actually lets you pick any starter from Gens 1 to 9. So what did I pick on attempt 1? That's right, a Rowlett I named Mario. Now you're probably wondering, why Rowlett? Does this little grass starter have a broken hidden ability? Am I planning to take advantage of Decidueye's ghost and grass typing? Maybe Hisuian Decidueye is really good? Well, I'll be honest, I picked Rowlett for one simple reason. He's just so cute. Like, peak starter design. It's an owl with a bow tie. What more could I even want? Honestly, this is attempt 1. I'm allowed to pick a starter based on vibes. Anyway, we're able to get a move on and deliver Oak's package, meaning this run has officially started. That means it's encounter time, and I get a lot of encounters during this run, so I'll try to keep this brief. Route 1, we're able to find a Galarian Zigzagoon. Viridian City has a new patch of grass, so I'm able to find a Shinx here. Heading west onto Route 22, I'm able to find a Mankey. Next, heading north, I find a Galarian Ponyta, before then heading to Viridian Forest, where I can find a Ladybur, and finally, once we make it to Pewter, I'm able to find an Alolan Grimer. I don't know enough about Radical Red to really judge just how useful this bunch is, but it's a varied group, if nothing else. Now, after evolving Peach into Luxio, it would normally be time to battle Brock, but this ROM hack actually adds 8 Johto gym leaders as added bonus fights, and they give you some really good rewards if you're able to beat them. So before Brock, let's challenge Falkner and his birds. Falkner actually only has 3 birds in this starting battle, so I'm not expecting this to be insanely difficult, especially as I've got Peach, who should be able to do good damage against Rowlett here. So that's an important lesson for this ROM hack. The AI really likes to switch, like a lot. Unfortunately, learning this lesson means I'm now facing an increased special attack Emolga. I'm hoping that maybe Luigi can at least take a hit here then. Wow, okay, this run is off to a good start. Rest in peace, Luigi. At least I've still got Kong, who can do good damage with a Rock Tomb while tanking a Shockwave. A Berry Juice healed a lot of that back, but I should be fine to spam Rock Tombs here to at least get rid of the flying. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Let's hope I'm just using up all of my bad luck at the start of this run, or this is going to be a painful experience. Plan C then, I send in Yoshi, who is able to get off a covert that brings the Emolga low enough to where it starts spamming Roost. This means it takes a while, but eventually I am able to finally take down the electric rodent. Right, second is Call the Squire, who is scary because of home claws. Like seriously, setup moves already? This ROM hack isn't playing around. Thankfully, I do get slightly lucky here because Yoshi is able to land a Will-O-Wisp, which means my pony is able to take hits long enough to pick up a second KO. All that leaves is Rowlett. Yoshi has just enough HP to survive one last attack, meaning he's able to land a Will-O-Wisp. Thank God for my pony. I'm now free to send Peach back in and repeat what I attempted on turn 1. KO with a Spark. With that, Falkner is down. To be honest, that could have gone better, but it was a learning experience if nothing else. Out of the drying pan and into the fire, because now we've got our first real challenge to deal with, Brock and his rock types. Luckily, Brock has his shirt on though, meaning that he's only at 50% of his normal power. Let's hope this goes well. Brock starts with Geodude, and I start with Mario. Despite Brock's Geodude getting a slight makeover from Fire Red, it still can't stand up to grass attacks. Mario still has to take a hard Rock Tomb, but but 2 Razor Leafs net me my first KO. Second is Vulpix, who is definitely not a rock type. Brock's clearly taken a leaf out of Flint's book when it comes to team building. Still can't leave my owl in here though, so I switch into Yoshi. Yoshi easily tanks an Incinerate on the switch, but of course this is Radical Red, so before I can land an attack, Brock switches out into Onix. No matter what version of Pokemon you're playing though, an Onix is still an Onix, so I decide to take a risk and go through a Will-O-Wisp. Yoshi once again proves his worth as he lands the attack before taking a Rock Tomb. Now that the Onix is crippled, I send in Mario and oh, this switching is going to get annoying fast, isn't it? This time when I send Yoshi back out, however, the AI finally stops switching, which allows Yoshi to get off 2 more attacks. Unfortunately though, Vulpix is holding a berry juice, meaning most of the damage Yoshi is able to get off is immediately healed. Yoshi is way too low to still keep in, so I send in Toad on another Ominous Wind. Toad works perfectly here as she's able to finish off the Vulpix with a single Rock Tomb. Well done, monkey. Third for Brock is his fossil bird, Archin. I decide to switch into Peach on a pluck that does next to nothing. Of course, before I can KO with a Spark, Brock switches again. At some point, I'm going to have to assume that the AI is going to switch and actually start playing around that. Spoiler, I don't. I can, however, send in Rowlett, and I assume because the AI sees a super effective attack with Rock Tomb, Brock doesn't end up switching again, allowing my starter to take down the Rock Snake. All that leaves for Brock then is his Rock Bird, and while I am slightly concerned about Brock's skin condition, Peach can easily close out this fight. With that, we've won our first gym badge of the run. Had some minor trouble thanks to the AI switching every 20 seconds, but overall that went pretty smoothly. That really was just a warm up for the rest of this run though, so to wish me luck and to show your support on this video, remember to leave a like and subscribe so you never miss a video. Also, I do have very cheap channel memberships available if you want to go out of your way to support me and my videos. No pressure though, let's carry on. So moving on from Brock, now our level cap is 27, we can evolve Mario and Daisy. I then noticed that on Route 2, there's an opening for Diglett Cave. This means I can grab an extra encounter, and nose pass I name Pauline. Wish I'd noticed this before the Brock and Falconer fights, but oh well, can't be helped. It's then time to head towards Cerulean City, and that means I can grab a Spearow, buy a Magikarp at the Pokemon Center outside Mount Moon, and then finally, catch myself a Grass Pumpkin. Now, depending on how much you're paying attention, you might have just noticed I just technically got 2 encounters in the same place, but for this run, I'm not going to count gift Pokemon as taking up an encounter, like I usually do in the majority of my runs, but come on, this run is hard enough, give me a break. We can then evolve a couple of these encounters before heading off into Mount Moon. Now, we don't have any real problems dealing with Team Rocket here, even if we've got our first run in with Archer. Archer's Houndour and Strong Jaw Mightyena can be pretty threatening, but we've got enough strong counters to deal with them. With that, we make it to Cerulean, where I buy a very expensive randomized egg off this random old man. This egg has the potential to be a huge amount of different Pokemon, so I'm excited to see what I find. Okay, well, Corphish isn't amazing, but I'm sure he'll be useful somewhere down the line. Now, before tackling the gym, I decide to head north towards Nugget Bridge. That means it's time to fight my rival, and thankfully, Crits isn't at the point of being difficult, but as time will come, trust me. While my rival is a bit of a pushover, the trainers on Nugget Bridge seem to have gotten a serious upgrade. Before tackling this then, I decide to head back to Pewter City to grab an egg I missed, and this time I get an Executor. With my eggs collected then, it's time to tackle Nugget Bridge, and Jesus Christ, some of these trainers. Through some real luck though, I'm able to make it through without any deaths. It's just the Team Rocket guy at the end that finally proves to be too much. First up in this fight is a Growlithe with Dragon Rage, which at this point in the run is super scary because my Pokemon don't really have that much HP as they're all still relatively low leveled. After landing a Rock Tomb with Pauline, I'm pretty sure my bird can come in and finish this stupid pup off, and of course I get baited as the AI switches into Gabite. Birdo still does a lot thanks to a crit, but this dragon is not going to go down easy. I decide I really don't want to take a hit from this thing, so I switch into Peach through an Intimidate. I then switch into Toadette through a second Intimidate. Right, now I'm in a perfect place to get off an Ice Fang. Really? Are you kidding? I don't even know why the AI switched there. Was it because of the Intimidates? Because logically, the AI should have seen this super effective attack with Rock Slide, and as far as I'm aware, it shouldn't have known about my Ice attack. I guess I just have to deal with that though, and at least Peach can come in, take a couple of attacks, and finally KO with Sparks. Next to the Rocket Grunt is Togedemaru, which is going to be a nightmare to take down thanks to my lack of ground types. Thankfully, I've still got Yoshi, who is healthy, so I can switch in as my pony takes a crit zippy zap that really hurts. Okay game, this fight is hard enough, could really do without crits like that please. Thankfully, Yoshi comes through like always and lands another Will-O-Wisp, perfect. Yoshi has still been brought low here, but a single flame wheel is enough to get rid of the annoying mouse. Ouch, Iron Barbs did a lot, least Yoshi, oh, okay, well that's just mean. Iron Barbs and Rocky Helmet, that's just nasty. If I thought that was bad though, I'm completely caught off guard by this next threat, this stupid little koala. Thankfully, after getting off an Intimidate, I can switch into Peach through a second Intimidate. Right, with 2 Intimidates, I should be pretty safe here to, what the f***? That KO'd after 2 Intimidates? How bullshit is Last Resort and this thing's stats? Without a type to resist this thing, I don't actually know how you'd win. Even with Pauline, who is really physically bulky, and 2 Intimidates, Pauline only just manages to take this thing down. Okay, all that leaves is Gabite, and if I didn't have Toadette here with Ice Fang, I would probably be looking at a wipe. Thank goodness for Gyarados though, but seriously, what the f was that trainer? That was harder than the majority of gym leaders in vanilla games. Well, I suppose I should just be thankful we made it through with only 2 deaths. If nothing else, after getting past the Bridge of Death, we now get 2 more encounters, and they're both really strong. Firstly, we get a Yamper with Strong Jaw, and second, we get a Talo with Guts. Now, I can't take advantage of Guts just yet, but it's not actually that long till we can. We can immediately then evolve our powerhouses, meaning we've got 2 strong new Pokemon to add to our team. We can then push on towards Bill, beat up Bugsy, who isn't actually that difficult, evolve my eggs into the best dragon type, fight me, and then we arrive at Misty. Now Misty's team is stacked with powerful fast water types, but I've actually got some decent counters here, so hopefully this won't be too bad. So I start with Diddy Kong, while Misty starts with Frogadier. Now for once I actually predict the AI switching. I know, shock right? So as Misty switches into Lantern, I switch into Toadsworth. Now my pumpkin is threatened by Icy Wind here, but thankfully Mega Drain is able to keep Toadsworth healthy enough to KO one of Misty's scariest Pokemon. Second is her Ace Starmie, so not out of the woods just yet. I decide to send in Toadette, who takes a massive amount from a Psy Shock on the switch. I now have to debate if I want to risk Toadette dying here, as that last hit did 50 damage and I only have 46 HP left. I decide to say f it and take the risk, hoping that that last Psy Shock was a high roll. I actually get really lucky here, because as well as Toadette surviving, she also crits, doing massive damage to the Starfish. Well, that makes up for our bad luck against Falkner. Just need Birdo to come in then and finish off the Starfish, or not. Let's try that again. So I need Diddy Kong to come in here and finish off the Starfish. Nice. Who's a good puppy? From here, I can actually just click Thunderfang to outspeed and one-shot both Frogadier and Misty's Weasel. Boltund isn't really taking any prisoners today, is he? I do find it amusing that the random grunt on Nugget Bridge was so much harder than this gym fight. Oh well, suppose I can't complain. 2 gyms down, 6 more to go. We've actually got a bit of a trek before our next gym battle, but before we can set off, we've got a couple of our Pokemon to evolve. With that out the way, and after defeating another scary Team Rocket grunt, seriously these guys are stacked, we can start grabbing more encounters. And once again, there's a lot, so let's keep this brief. We find a Growlithe, a Cherubi, a Cufant, a Sandygast, a Sandile, a Thrillish, and finally a Krabby. Honestly, a lot of these encounters are really strong, and even the ones that aren't, Cherubi and Thrillish, they're not even that bad. We can then evolve some of these encounters before having to battle our way through the SSN, where once again we have some rather difficult battles. This is all capped off with a battle against our second rival, Brendan. Oh, sorry, did I forget to mention this Hoenn rival? Yeah, he turns up from time to time, and we've already beaten him once in Viridian Forest. Honestly though, he proves just as easy here as he was then. Suck it, Brendan, May's better anyway. We then give an old man a back rub, and I usually don't give these out for 3, so he should really appreciate this. Now usually, after getting cut, it would would be time to battle Surge, but instead I decide to backtrack slightly and make my way to Route 9. Here I can grab some more encounters, and I run into the scariest thing imaginable. Has this ROM hack added a surprise battle against a champion or Elite Four member like Renegade Platinum does? No. Instead, I have to deal with something even scarier. This small child. That's right, this small picnicker is a complete nightmare. You might be thinking, well, she's just a child with 4 Pokemon. How scary could she? Oh my goodness. And that's not all. For some reason, this completely random child has moves like Dragon Ascent, Close Combat, and V-Create. Like, why? At least the Team Rocket guy was like a final mini-boss for the bridge. This is just a random child. Luckily, I have Toadette, who does manage to take down the Smeargle and the Sneasel. Then the Spinder comes out, and this very nearly turns into a bloodbath. Luckily, Nabbit comes through and lands a Leech Seed plus Sleep Powder, which does let me safely take down this stupid thing, but that could have gotten bad fast. Unfortunately, it's on this picnicker's final Pokemon, Liepard, where my luck finally runs out. With a 4 level difference, I'm expecting Birdo to outspeed, but this cat has no chill and KOs my bird. Rest in peace, Birdo. At the very least, Diddy Kong is able to end this fight, but I'd like to once again ask, who is this child? Anyway, let's move on from that as I'm able to catch an Electrike right outside of Rock Tunnel. Then, once I'm inside Rock Tunnel, I'm able to catch a Thero Seed, who should be a really useful tank. Eventually, I make it out of the Rock Tunnel onto Route 10, and I'm actually wondering at this point how far I can get without battling Surge. Some of these random trainers are starting to get rather scary though, so I decide to stop pushing my luck and catch one last encounter, a Lombre I find on Route 8. I then backtrack into Rock Tunnel where my hunt for a Heatmore begins. Why a Heatmore, you may ask? Well, they have a chance of holding a Flame Orb, so using Thief, I can eventually get lucky and grab myself an item that will be really important in powering up my bird in the future. With that all out the way then, it's time for our 3rd gym fight against the electric leader, Surge. I actually don't have as many counters for Surge's electric types going into this fight as I'd like, so let's hope this goes well. Surge starts with a Zappy Pincushion, which isn't actually that intimidating, even if it does set up electric terrain. I decide to start with Nabbit. Despite a special defense boost from the terrain, this Pincushion really can't threaten my Grass Dragon, meaning 2 Mega Drains pick up my first KO. Second is Boltund, and I can't stand up to an Ice Fang here, so I switch into Wendy. I do need Wendy for other parts of this fight though, so I switch straight into Diddy Kong and actually take a lot from a Thunder Fang. Should still be fine to take another hit here. Jesus Christ. What's worse is that my pup fails to KO Surge's pup. Guess that didn't really work out very well. Thankfully, I could switch into my Sandcastle Cranky, who thanks to an Eviolite is ridiculously tanky. Then just have to land a Bulldoze. Never mind. I'll never get used to that, I swear. At least the AI doesn't switch when I send in Wendy and KO with 2 flamethrowers. Not sure why the AI didn't go through a Volt Switch there. That surely would have done more than Bug Buzz. I would find it amusing if this AI that loves to hard switch every chance it gets doesn't like going through a switching move. Up next is Raichu, so I switch into Boo. I'm once again expecting a Volt Switch here, but Boo should be able to tank a hit and then KO whatever comes in with a dig. This AI really doesn't like Volt Switch for some reason, does it? Oh well, there goes Raichu. Fourth is Manectric, who is Surge's ace, and the first time we have to deal with a Mega in this run. This ace is such a threat, I decide to risk putting it to sleep. I send in Nabbit as the Manectric Mega evolves and lands a really hard Flame Burst. I'm pretty sure I can take another one of those though, just need Sleep Powder to connect, thank God. With the ace asleep, I feel pretty safe to go through a Leech Seed, and Surge switches again. Well that works. Sometimes the AI is switching and putting itself at a disadvantage. Suppose I can't complain. 3 KO on the Boltund. Then the ace comes back out, and this time I actually nail the pup with a Leech Seed. With Leech Seed set up, Harvest recycling Oran Berries for Nabbit, and Mega Drains, my Egg Tree is actually able to keep himself healthy enough to slowly wear down Surge's ace, giving us the win. Once again, didn't have much fun dealing with the Switch Happy AI, but that fight went pretty smoothly. With that, we've gotten our 3rd gym badge, and our level cap has jumped to 44, meaning we can evolve a lot more of our Pokemon. Mario even gets his Hisuian form. Complete accident, but I'll take it. Now normally, we'd have a long walk to Celadon City, but considering I've already made it most of the way, we actually only have 2 encounters to grab, a Rhydon we find on Route 16, and an Eevee I find in Celadon itself. I decide to hold off on evolving this Eevee just yet, but she'll be important later. Then I make a mistake. A lot of the Johto leaders haven't been super difficult so far, so I decide to challenge Morty, and let's just say he's a step up from the rest of the Johto leaders that I've fought so far. So Morty starts with Mimikyu, while I start with Larry. A single Iron Head breaks the Mimikyu's disguise as the Pikachu clone sets up a sword stance. Even with that attack boost though, Larry should be fine here, or the AI will switch. Stat boosts and switching AI make for an interesting combination, don't they? Obviously can't leave Larry in here against the Typhlosion, so I switch into Diddy Kong, who takes a hard flamethrower. A single crunch is then enough for a KO. Second, or third technically, is Weavile, so I switch into Loomis, who thankfully completely walls this monster. See, told you we'd find a use for this thing. Third for Morty is Gengar, who is obviously super scary as this ace is going to Mega Evolve. I do have Sucker Punch on Mario though, so if I can get off any damage into this Gengar, I should be in the clear. This obviously does mean Loomis will probably go down after getting off an Aqua Jet, but that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. I actually get slightly bamboozled here though, because much to my surprise, I'm actually fighting Zoroark. Even more surprising is the fact that my crab lived. I still decide to just get off another Aqua Jet though, before Loomis does fall to a Hyper Voice. I am now in a perfect position to send my pup in to finish off the Zoroark with a crunch. Next the Mimikyu comes back out, so I switch back into Larry, who takes a Play Rough on the switch. That Play Rough did next to nothing, but it did lower my attack, annoyingly. This attack drop actually keeps Mimikyu alive long enough to set up another Sword Stance and land a really hard Shadow Claw before going down. Okay, that was damage I would have rather have not taken, but we're still getting through this. Just gotta deal with the real Gengar, and Sucker Punch should KO here, but I no longer have Loomis available to land an Aqua Jet. I decide instead to switch into Toadette to get off some damage. Unfortunately though, before I can get off a crunch, Gengar goes for a nasty plot. With that attack increase, I can't guarantee that Mario will come in safely anymore. I'm now in an awkward spot, but I decide to stay in and risk Toadette because there's a chance maybe the AI will switch, as I just hit a super effective move, and that has caused the AI to switch in the past. Unfortunately not, and I lose Toadette. Rest in peace, my big fish. At least Mario can come in and land a Sucker Punch for the one shot. All that leaves is Dusknoir, who falls to a single attack from Ludwig. Well, that was a humbling experience. Lost Loomis, which to be honest I was expecting, but losing Gyarados sucks. At least I didn't get wiped by that stupid Mega Gengar. Hey, you know that fight was pretty difficult? Want to know what the exact opposite of the difficult fight is? That's right, it's time for Erika. Okay, well maybe I'm exaggerating. She actually has a pretty stacked team, so this might actually be difficult. If nothing else, I really shouldn't start getting cocky. So Erika starts with Rillaboom, and I start with Wendy. A single flamethrower is enough for a one-shot, good start. Second is Superior, who is actually really scary. This grass snake has the ability Contrary and the move Leaf Storm, meaning every time it attacks is going to raise its special attack. On top of that, I can't one-shot thanks to a Focus Sash. This monster could get out of control quickly, better make sure I have a plan or I could very easily get swept. Ha, that was easy. Third is Mega Venusaur, who would be a real problem if I didn't have Larry, who walls this thing pretty well and can't be put to sleep. Of course, the AI isn't going to stick around and let me easily KO its Mega Ace, so instead Erika sends in her Electrode, and oh my god, why does this thing have a base power attack of 225 and a speed of 150? Hell, thankfully Larry still walls this stupid ball pretty hard, and it turns out I didn't need to worry anyway, because Erika makes a brilliant decision and just makes her scary Pokemon explode for very little damage. Well done, Erika. That seemed like a really good use of a very strong Pokemon. Next, the Venusaur comes back out, and Earth Power is actually doing a lot more than I thought it would. Makes you question why the AI decided to switch just to explode one of its best Pokemon. Suppose I shouldn't complain. Venusaur is just so tanky, 2 Iron Heads from Larry actually don't do a huge amount. Larry has brought the starter low enough though to where I can send in Bowser and KO go with a dual wing beat. All that leaves is Meganium, and I actually don't have many options to deal with this dinosaur. I decide I'll probably survive an ancient power, so I go through a facade and get a crit. That was so much easier than Morty, it's not even funny. Erika sucks in every timeline, clearly. We're halfway through, nothing is going to stop us now, and I'm sure we can beat this in one attempt. Yep, absolutely nothing is about to go wrong. Nothing at all. Anyway, after that bit of ominous foreshadowing, I now get access to the game corner, and I've decided to allow myself one of these ultra powerful Pokemon. Now, there are some optimal choices here, but instead I go for the rule of cool and decide to pick Salamence. I'm probably still a little jealous of Indy, if I'm honest. I also decide to evolve Eevee into Sylveon for the simple fact I really don't have many fairy types. It's then time for our first battle with Giovanni, and you might have noticed my subtle complaints about how much the AI switches in this ROM hack, and well, yeah, it's been building to this. So I start with Ludwig, and Giovanni starts with Nidoking. Of course, I go for a dig, and Giovanni immediately switches out into Rotom. Good start. I then decide to also switch, so I get Wendy in for 3. Then guess what? Giovanni switches again. The switching train never stops, especially because I now switch into Bowser. Of course the AI, okay, I'm just kidding. I'm able to land a facade that easily takes down the Nidoking. Rotom then comes back out, so I switch into Wendy. I actually get off an attack with Wendy here, but it's mostly healed by a citrus berry. Giovanni then switches into Kangaskhan, and this thing is a monster. Mega Kangaskhan basically attacks twice thanks to its ability, so I need to be really careful here. Of course, I have the perfect counter in Larry, as the double fake out actually triggers Iron Barbs twice for massive damage. Of course, then the AI immediately switches into Infernape, another massive threat. I'm honestly not even sure why the AI switched there, considering it had a super effective move in Power Up Punch, but sure, whatever. If nothing else, Infernape came in on a Toxic, meaning the monkey's now on a timer. With Infernape on a timer, I can do some clever switching between Sylveon and Wendy, and eventually I'm able to stall out the monkey before finishing it off with an extreme speed. Rotom then comes back out, and for some reason the AI seems to have given up on switching. It now just lets me get off flame charges till the Rotom goes down. This AI is very confusing. Oh well, next is Haunchcrow, so I switch into Boo. Normally my elephant would be tanky enough to 1v1 this bird, but thanks to super luck, a scope lens, and Night Slash, Boo gets crit twice here before landing a heavy slam that very nearly one-shots. I do still have my perfect counter in Larry, who does take another crit on the switch before Iron Barbs takes down the critting bird. All that leaves is Kangaskhan, and my team is really beat up here. Larry pulls through though, and thanks to Iron Barbs, 2 fake outs and 2 power up punches bring the ace low enough to where Larry finishes off the monster with an Iron Head. We've done it, Giovanni is down. What a fight. I know I'm complaining a lot, but it's just kind of frustrating to be playing against an AI that switches as much as this one, and also it seems semi-random. Feels like I'm playing singles VGC, which I don't really like very much. Oh well, that's just how this game works. Moving on. Defeating Giovanni means we've gotten access to the Silph Scope, and that means we can go rescue Mr. Fuji. Fuji, of course, rewards us with the Pokeflute, which, as well as letting us carry on our adventure, we can also grab 2 more Pokemon. 1 physical tank, a Shelder, and 1 special tank, a Snorlax. Before carrying on to Fuchsia City, Radical Red actually makes you face Team Rocket in the Silph Co arc. I'm not sure why, considering we've already defeated Team Rocket not too long ago, and this seems like a strange choice in terms of pacing, but not a lot I can do about it, so let's go take down Team Rocket. So the Silph Co building is just full of grunts, and they're pretty easy. It's not till I get to my rival where things get, interesting. See, Crits has been fairly easy throughout this run so far, but now he's got a pretty stacked team. I'm sure we can handle whatever he throws at us though, and I'm definitely not about to regret doing this fight at 2 in the morning, so my rival starts with Staraptor, while I start with Diddy Kong. Normally a Thunderbolt would be enough for a KO here, but the AI instead switches into Electivire. That's fine, because I can also play the switching game, sending in Cranky on a close combat. Now Electivire does threaten with Ice Punch here, but I'm pretty sure Cranky can take the hit. Okay, well my Sandcastle survived, but unfortunately I did get hit by a Frostbite. Frostbite, if you didn't know, acts like Burn, but for special attack, which unfortunately causes Cranky to miss the KO with an Earth Power. This is going to cripple Cranky for the rest of this battle, but if nothing else, I can send in Wendy, take an Ice Punch, and then take down the electric monster with an extreme speed. Next to crits is Jumpluff, who is pretty scary thanks to a combination of Swords Dance and Sleep Powder. Thankfully Larry should be a good wall here, so I switch in my plant as the Jumpluff starts setting up. Luckily Jumpluff only has grass and normal moves though, so I should be fine here to wall this stupid thing, even if it does get off a second Swords Dance. This is starting to get me a little bit concerned, especially because Iron Head isn't doing a huge amount, but I'm sure everything will be okay. Wait, what? Why was that a neutral attack? What have I missed? Oh, area light. Overlooking that has put me in a really bad position, as I'm now facing down a plus Thor attack monster with a base speed of 110. Thank God for Wendy and extreme speed, or I probably would have wiped right there. Still got a lot of problems to deal with though before we're through this fight, the first of which is Charizard. Wendy does have Thunderfang, so I stay in and take an air slash that does a lot before landing an underwhelming electric attack. I do get saved however because Thunderfang paralyzes. Getting the para there is huge as it allows Diddy to come in, take another scary air slash before outspeeding and finishing off the Charizard. Next is Azumarill, and with Diddy Kong out, I'm expecting to be in the clear here. I'm shocked that didn't KO. Like, Azumarill is kind of bulky, but not enough to survive the strong jaw boosted Thunderfang. Rest in peace, puppy. That right there is the disadvantage of not using damage calculators. I am now able to send in my Salamence in his debut battle, and Zen Headbutt takes down the Azumarill and gives me a Moxie boost attack. But honestly, I was playing this fight on very little sleep, and losing 2 Pokemon to stupid mistakes has really thrown me off my game, so instead of going for the attack and probably winning the fight right here, I instead switch into Snorlax, hoping to take a hit well enough to at least get off some damage. Of course, this was a massive mistake, and I do try to course correct, but I end up making an even worse mistake. I switch into Salamence and assume I'll outspeed, but instead my dragon gets taken out. Combination of bad plays, tiredness, and panicking is really beginning to bite me in the arse here. I'm now looking at the end of this run, unless Wendy can KO with an extreme speed. I do win thanks to recoil damage, but that was a bloodbath. I'm surprised we even made it through, but losing some of my best Pokemon through mostly just bad plays is not an easy pill to swallow. What's worse is after that devastating loss, I'm immediately thrown into a tag team battle against the Rocket admins. This is one of those awkward fights where I only get to bring 3 Pokemon, while Brendan brings 3 Pokemon to fight alongside me. I've decided on Wario, Ludwig, and Cheep Cheep, who all have key resistances to these Rocket admins. This is still going to be a risky fight. Hopefully RNG is kind to me. So I start with Wario, while Brendan starts with Masquerain. The Rocket admins start with Incineroar and Gothitelle. Of course, because Brendan hates me, his Masquerain gets off an Intimidate that activates Gothitelle's Competitive, giving it a special attack boost. I did plan for this though, so I go through a Yawn to try and keep this monster Psychic type from doing too much damage. Masquerain still takes a big hit, but at least on the following turn, it does hit back with a powerful Bug Buzz. Brendan's Thirst Pokemon then does Thaw to a second Psychic attack. Good start, Brendan. Wario is then able to land another Yawn into the Incineroar. Yeah, this is the plan. Cripple this double battle with Yawns. So next to Brendan is his Sceptile, so I switch into Ludwig, who can eat any hit on the field. Brendan immediately Mega Evolves Sceptile and KOs the Gothitelle with Mega Drain as the Incineroar falls asleep. Next to the admins is Houndoom, so I'm in a great position to get off an Earthquake here. Sorry, Brendan. This doesn't actually work out very well because the hard switches Incineroar for Primarina. Sceptile then gets hit by a Dark Pulse from the Houndoom. This unfortunately means the only thing Earthquake KOs is the Sceptile. Sorry, Brendan. At least that was good damage anyway. Brendan's last Pokemon is Exploud, and Primarina is threatening my Croc here, so I switch into Cheep Cheep. This works really well, as Exploud is able to take down the Houndoom as Cheep Cheep takes a Scold. Next, Aegislash comes out, who isn't actually as scary as you'd think. This is because it likes to spam King's Shield, meaning if we just focus into the other slot, we should be fine. Both me and Brendan make the correct decision and double up into the stupid water starter. This I suppose wasn't 100% necessary, as Exploud takes the KO by himself, but at least that thing's down. Up next is another Mega, but at least Mega Mawile is less scary than Houndoom, so we can both double up into it and take it down before it's even able to get off a single attack. Aegislash continues to sit behind its shield and do absolutely nothing. All that leaves is Incineroar, who is still asleep, so a Surf and a Scold pick up another KO. With that, the fight is pretty much over, as Aegislash can't stand up to Wario and Exploud, giving us the win. That went pretty smoothly, needed that after that disastrous rival battle. Brendan also gives us a Trico as a reward. Maybe I should stop insulting him. We're nearly through the Silph Co arc then, but we've still got one more challenge, Giovanni. Last time we battled him, he was annoying, this time he ain't around. Let's give it a roll then, this isn't going to be easy. So Giovanni starts with Hippowdon, while I start with Cheep Cheep. This Hippo would be scary, but it only spends a turn setting up a Stealth Rocks before 2 Scalds take it down. Second is Kangaskhan, and without Larry, this thing is going to be much more difficult. I decide my best bet is Intimidate, so I start switching between Cranky and Ludwig. This also has the advantage of applying Chip to the stupid Kangaskhan. This does work for a while, but once I decide to start going for an attack, Giovanni hard switches into his monster Garchomp. This thing has the potential to sweep entire teams, especially with the setup move Swords Dance. Thankfully, Garchomp came in on an attack, and because Garchomp decides to go for Swords Dance on the following turn, I'm actually able to get off 2 attacks before Garchomp decides to start attacking. This is it though. Can Cranky survive the +2 attack Garchomp? Jesus, Cranky, you're my favourite, you beast. Despite this victory, we've still got a long way to go, and now the Kangaskhan is back. Unfortunately, with Cranky so low, Intimidate switching is no longer going to work, so I send in Ludwig for one last Intimidate, and then send in Mario. Shit. Double shit. Somehow, Mario did survive that, but unfortunately, I got paralyzed by the body slam. What's worse, I also failed to KO the Kangaskhan. Gonna have to take a risk with paralysis to hopefully get rid of this thing, and Sucker Punch gets through. This fight is slightly mad, I won't lie. Nearly through this. Next is Excadrill, because Garchomp couldn't be the only scary ground type here with Swords Dance. Thankfully, Cheep Cheep is still healthy, so I can come in on a hard Earthquake. Of course, then Excadrill gets off the Swords Dance, while Cheep Cheep fails to one-shot. This could be bad. I might just survive here though, especially after Leftovers recovery. Gonna have to take that risk. Okay, well, looks like we'll never know if I could have taken that hit. Still, I'm sure even at +2, Mario is tanky enough to survive at least one hit here, right? Double crit. Thankfully, taking another risk with Mario pays off, because despite the paralysis, my starter sneaks through another Sucker Punch. All that leaves is Poltegeist, who goes down to a single crunch from Ludwig. Right, that was a really hard battle, and Silph Co itself really put me through the ringer. We've won though, and despite all the deaths, we're still in this. Of course, this is Radical Red, so it's not about to let up on the difficulty, because now we have to face Sabrina. Looking at this team, if I'm not prepared, I could be in a lot of trouble here. Trick Room could easily spell disaster. I decide I could probably do with a few more encounters then, after my recent losses, and a quick Google search tells me I'm missing a gift Pokemon in Celadon. Turns out, by giving shards to this old man, I get a randomized starter of whatever type I want. Now, I know I've already gotten 2 other gift Pokemon in Celadon, but I think this is fine as long as I don't, say, get multiple Pokemon from the same source. With that, we can hatch our egg then, and we get a Scorbunny. Now, I'm not really excited about this until I see Cinderace's stats and its hidden ability. This ability changes Scorbunny's type to whatever move it just used, and when you combine this with a frankly silly attack and speed stat, this bunny is going to murder everything. I also evolved Brendan's gift, meaning it's time for our 5th gym battle of the run. So Sabrina starts with Hatterene and Indeedee, while I start with Boo and Drybones. Now, letting these 2 set up a Trick Room here would be really bad, but I've played enough VGC doubles to know exactly how to counter this Trick Room strategy. Simple, either stall out the Trick Room or KO before they set up. I can easily pick option 2 here, as a U-turn takes down the Indeedee and a Heavy Slam takes down the hat-wearing Psychic. Good start. Second is Porygon and Gardevoir. I know I'm baiting an Ice Beam from the Porygon here, so I decide to protect Chuck. This works perfectly, as Chuck is protected against the attack that comes from the Porygon, and Boo can one-shot the Gardevoir. Wait, why did Boo outspeed the Gardevoir there? Like, I probably would have been safe anyway, but I'm really confused by this. I've even looked back at this footage and gone over abilities and moves and items, and I really don't understand why my elephant went first there. Trick Room isn't set up, and it's not like Gardevoir has any negative priority moves. Surely Gardevoir should have gone before my really slow elephant? Confused. Suppose I shouldn't complain, but anyone see something I missed? Let me know in the comments if you did. So up next, the Sabrina is Crawdon, so I switch back into Drybones. My elephant is able to get off good damage with a Play Rough, but she still takes a hard knockoff, and then Porygon finally sets up a Trick Room. Need to start stalling that out then, so I double protect through a turn, while Sabrina teleports into her ultra scary Ursaluna. I really have to be careful when playing around this monster. Combined with Guts and those stats, this bear is no joke. With Trick Room up, I know I can KO the Crawdont with Boo before it can attack, but that does leave me vulnerable to the Ursaluna. I'll be honest though, I'm sure the bear sees the KO into both my Pokemon here, so I decide to switch Dry Bones out for Ludwig, as Intimidate is going to be really helpful here. This works as Ludwig takes a heavy hit but survives, while Boo KOs the crab. Down to the last two then, I decide to double protect again to carry on schooling out the Trick Room before double switching to Chuck and Lemmy. This works out perfectly as the bear goes through a useless protect, but Lemmy takes an Ice Beam like a champ before disabling it with Curse Body. I've also just stalled out the Trick Room, so I'm in a perfect position to KO Sabrina's scariest Pokemon by doubling up into it. All that leaves is Porygon, who by himself can't really do much, meaning we've won our 5th gym badge. That fight went really well. Still not sure why my elephant outsped the Gardevoir, but really happy with how we played that. Got through one of the hardest gym battles in this game with no deaths, thanks to a solid team and good plays. We're so back after the disaster of Silph Co. Well, I say we're so back, but I immediately run into a slight problem on Route 16 and have a tiny issue. So this route has added weather battles, which by itself is fine. I look at my documents and prepare a team that can handle the first of these trainers, but because I'm using speed up and not really paying attention, I run in and notice something scary. The game's gonna make me fight all 3 of these guys in a row, isn't it? So yeah, the first biker isn't too much of the problem, but he does weaken my team enough so that when I start the battle with the second biker, his Dracozolt is able to sweep my entire team. That's such a bad way to wipe, losing to random trainers because I rushed in without thinking I'd have to fight all 3 of these guys really sucks. This isn't the end though. I'm now determined I will beat this game, or I will in the next video. So I hope you'll all join me for that. Remember to subscribe so you won't miss my next attempt at beating this game. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you all in the next one.